Virtual reality means that you're completely immersed. You've got one of these headsets on, so it's a 360 environment. For us, it's very much about how do you create social fun games that are non-violent, but you still have that competitive nature.
Welcome back to another episode of a Kiwi Original. Today on the show, I'm joined by Jessica Manins from a company called Beyond, and their specialization is VR, AR. This is virtual reality, augmented reality, creating worlds where anything is possible and creating environments which are either fun or actually practical, because you can learn to do something in a safe space, build up the confidence, and then get on the business job. So we're going to be talking about those two areas, as well as some exciting recent news that Beyond has to share with us for, I think, maybe the first time, or certainly within the first few hours or days. So first of all, Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. So first question, it's end of 2020 now. These virtual reality and worlds have always been on the horizon, right? There's been like Second Life games. There's been these things that we could confidently use VR. Where is the technology at now? Like, what's actually possible with some of the worlds that you can build and experience now?
It's really come a long way, and I feel like we probably, as people working in the industry, always say that this is the year for, our certain technology, but it does feel true for virtual reality in particular. I think augmented reality next year is going to be the year for AR, but the worlds that we can create in VR. So just so everyone understands, virtual reality means that you're completely immersed. You've got one of these headsets on. So it's a 360 environment. It might be an animated environment that we've built using a game engine, or it might be a 360 filmed. So that's using, a camera and having that whole 360 environment, and that could be interactive, or it could actually be now live streaming in real time and watching, sports, or it might be, entertainment, live streaming or live watching of anything in this 360 environment. For gaming, which is where we specialize in, the technology now allows us to kind of get rid of all the cords and the backpack PCs and not requiring kind of the hardware that you used to have to be able to freely roam around in your room in a VR headset and move within that environment. So that for us, that was a real game changer and a part of what we've focused on at Beyond.
Because that's part of the challenge with the technology, isn't it? Is that you've actually got to wear something that is going to cover your eyes. It's sitting on your head and your neck. It's not like a PlayStation or an Xbox where you're holding the controls. Your body becomes the control. Is that right?
That's right. So in our game Oddball, for example, you become the character in the game. You're in there with, up to 6 of your mates, and you're walking around. You're a crazy panda or a unicorn or whatever character you've chosen. And yeah, you can interact with each other and play together in the game. So it's as immersive as you can possibly imagine. And that's the real key difference, is that immersion and that presence that you get when you're in virtual reality.
What's the limitations on what you can be within the world?
Well, like, you can be whatever you want if we've got the character there for you to choose, and that really just comes down to design and what we've made. But the possibilities are endless. It's just, we can create new art assets and put that in there. But yeah, like you said, from an educational point of view, it's being used really widely now for that kind of training, education. A lot of people using it for empathy, for situations that are hard to experience in real life without it being dangerous. Like you said, being in a car, that's definitely a massive growth area in VR. And then, gaming. This year, Half-Life Alyx launched, and I think Steam VR users went up by 1 million. So we're really at a bit of a tipping point now.
What does it take to start a VR company? Like, there's obviously resources you need to put the company together to create these worlds. How do you know where to put the resources?
So it's a creative technology company. So you've kind of got the two sides. You've got the art and creative side, the storytellers. For me, I come from a film and theatre background, and then I went into technology. So that really helps about thinking about the experience and the entertainment side of things. And that's, then, if we're looking at it practically, animators, artists, etc., modelers, and then from a technical point of view, developers. And for us in particular, we're currently using Unreal Engine, but we have used Unity as well. So that's the two gaming engines that you would build a game in. These are also used in the film industry. So there's this huge crossover now between films and games, which gives us a real advantage because we can all work together in the same tools with the same tool set. Particularly great being here in Wellington with so many amazing film and screen people. So that's really cool.
That's interesting. So there's actually this, you've got established film and establishing itself fast-growing VR worlds. You can use the same tools. That's got to create some opportunities, hasn't it? Because that film world's very well funded, got great scripts, usually great actors or access to talent. VR, at least this is my limited knowledge, isn't necessarily the billion-dollar movie industry. So are you saying that the two could merge, or one takes over or they could cross-populate from each other?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, games. If we split aside VR from it, games is bigger than movies and music combined. The gaming industry.
Wow.
So now, yeah, if you look at how you can combine them, the movie industry is now using these engines because of the incredible real-time lighting effects that they have. The ability that these engines are absolutely incredible and now vital for the film industry and the pipeline and how they animate. And I mean, no doubt, Weta Digital will be using, I think, Unreal Engine. It all really is crossing over and allowing us to do things that we might have only ever imagined before.
So you've got these tools at your disposal now. They're very powerful. They're up there with the professionalism of film because film's relying on it as well. What directions can then you take it in through VR that it would just not be possible with film in terms of storyline or putting the viewer, who's now the controls and the experience, at the center of it?
Yeah. So for us, it means that, you can be the character in our game in the real time because we're focused on our first game being a location-based game. So when I say that, I mean you go to a venue and you play our game with your friends. Physically, you're there, but you're also there digitally in the game. It's a little bit like I describe it as laser tag meets Dr. Zeus in a weird environment. You're in a big room playing together. So the future of now, what we can start looking at is, well, how do you add other players and people into that game, whether they're here in Wellington or in Auckland or in LA, and start linking them up together into the same game. So there's this whole multiplayer ability that VR and the tools that we have offer us. So it's quite exciting what you can do. And yeah, it is very different. It's not a passive experience. You are controlling what happens within that VR experience. What you do is the outcome, I guess. Pick a path, if you think about the old book ways.
I love the pick a path, and I'm probably showing my age here.
Me too.
Looking at your modern products in the VR world, you've also got a 30 minutes of mayhem. So if people are listening now thinking, I actually want to try out this VR from Beyond, this is like a taster. You can go down to are you Wellington based?
Yeah, we're Wellington based. Yeah, so they can come to us and they can bring their friends and play together in our game Oddball. It's competitive, it's fun, it's family friendly. Like for us, it's very much about how do you create social fun games that are non-violent, but you still have that competitive nature. So you're shooting things at each other, but it's a hot dog, or you can turn your opponent into a giant pineapple. It's silly and humorous, and it appeals to all ages because of that.
What's the type of comments that you hear from people, and I'm not going to say whether it's kids or adults, when they take the headset off? Like, what's the experience been like for them in their shoes?
It's normally just joy, and that was amazing. And like, whoa, what have I just come back into? When they come back, they take the headset off and they're like, whoa, Oh, because your mind tricks you as soon as you're in there. Like I said, that immersion and that presence, our brain just goes, okay, this is me now. I'm a giant panda and I'm chasing him and trying to fire a fart bomb at him in these islands, and our brain is incredible like that. So yeah, then when they come back to reality, there's this kind of instant like shock of, whoa, this is the real world. It was more fun in that other one.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I took away from the trying VR. They had this. There was a world that we were in where we went up on the Empire State Building, and it's walking along a corridor, and then on the inside the mask it says "Look down," and looking down, we're not in the Empire State anymore. We're on an I-beam that was suspended in the middle of the air, like you used to see in the 19th century building of New York. And watching people using the VR headset after me, in that moment, they lost their balance, even though we were just standing on, we're in a breakout room, and they would have people trying, like next to the person playing, to make sure that person didn't fall over when they're on the I-beam. And then you turn around, because it says, turn 180 degrees, you go back into the Empire State Building, and a T-Rex comes around the corner, and you just want to run away from it. It's that real.
It is that real. It is amazing, how far the technology has come, and the content is just improved massively. The cost of the hardware has come down. Facebook just launched the Quest 2, which is another standalone VR headset, so you don't need a computer, or anything to plug into, and that's about 500 New Zealand dollars. So, it's really becoming more accessible.
Switching gears a little bit, what does this mean for business? That for a $500 headset and potentially a bigger investment in creating a world for employees, what type of use cases do you think are going to develop, or you've already seen and are quite excited by?
So I think, COVID has really shown us exactly what we're doing right now. I'm sure Zoom is making some good money at the moment because of the ability to connect digitally online. VR does the same thing, except it puts us in a immersive environment where we really feel like we're next to each other, not just looking at a screen. So we've seen this huge increase in virtual conferences, virtual art installations, where we together can put on our headset, choose our avatar, and be in the same room, feel like we're in the same room together when we could be on opposite sides of the world. We could collaborate on a whiteboard. We could make things together. The opportunities are pretty endless when it comes to that remote work, collaboration, team building, doing fun things, whether it's an escape room or, a game. So for businesses, there's this opportunity, as we do have a remote workforce, to be able to use this as a tool for both connecting and then also for training, as we've talked about, opportunities for them to develop content. It's not nearly as expensive to do that. There's still, there still is a price tag. There's still a lot of skill in what is involved. But yeah, to create training. So if you've got thousands of staff around the world and you want them to be trained in a particular thing, it's probably a lot cheaper to spend a bit of money on that VR training application and deploy headsets to people. And I really do think in the future, the same with schooling, you'll be given a headset as part of that toolbox for education and toolbox for fun. And it's got so many different applications for it.
I think that's certainly exciting. I think I'd love to see that idea where you get given a headset, not just at schools, but imagine it for, well, I guess that's a question really. Has any thought been given to headsets and VR worlds for tourism? Because tourists can't come here. We've got this stunning, beautiful scenery. What could we do with Facebook's new VR headset that actually still allows people to virtually travel to experience some of our beauty? I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it still could be educational or entertaining.
Yeah, and there already are some lovely applications out there for people to travel to, travel to that place in VR and experience a city or or something different. We, for example, captured the Treaty of Waitangi using photogrammetry and put that into a VR experience a few years ago for He Tohu VR, where the treaty is currently held. So in virtual reality, you can get up and close with the treaty more than you can in real life, because there's obviously a glass, covering over it. But in VR, you can look really close and see those signatures. There's some absolutely beautiful 360 videos that have been made, of different locations. We did some work in a while back with the Breast Cancer Foundation, more for therapy, but using VR as a therapy tool. But it took them to beautiful places like the Abel Tasman, and you could draw in the clouds and draw in the sand, and you could just be there and soak up the sounds of nature and Aotearoa. So yeah, there's huge opportunities as well. I think tourism, though, in terms of wanting to go to a place, we still want to smell and taste and feel, and you can, there's haptics and there's things that are in there in VR, but it's not quite the same.
No, there's nothing like going to the place and feeling the sand between your toes. Also, it's pretty hard maybe it's not to create the jet lag part of it, which I
don't think we want that bit, right? That's a whole thing, right? We skip that.
Skip the bad parts, just go to the good parts.
Yeah.
Now, you've got quite an exciting announcement around an award you've been given, or a access to funding or a grant. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we're really excited to have been one of the 4 winners for the Spark 5G Starter Fund, which basically gives us some money, which is amazing, from Spark, but early access to their 5G lab. So we'll be working with them on how we can use 5G technology with what we're doing. And in particular, what we're wanting to do, because our mission is kind of, how do we bring VR to the masses? Whether you have a VR headset or not, and what are some ways that now more than ever we might be at home, might not be able to go to a location, or maybe we are just out and about and we don't have a headset. So how do we connect people in to have that fun and that joy? And mobile phones are obviously, we've all got one. So we want to build a mobile application that allows you to actually stream in 4K using, the 5G network, really high quality streaming of our VR games, but also to be able to interact in that game. So you can imagine you might be a bird flying around in that game and you're using the mobile phone, or, another character that's playing, and we can start linking all of our games together into this mobile app. So yeah, we're absolutely over the moon. It was quite a long process and a lot of hard work, and we got down to the final 8 and then pitched in front of kind of a Dragon's Den style judging panel with some fantastic people, and had some amazing mentoring, and yeah, now we get to work with Spark and leverage the opportunities that 5G offers us, which really is that low latency, that high bandwidth, and then of course edge computing. There's all sorts of opportunities for VR and for us in the future with that.
Certainly a great endorsement of your business as well, to be able to get that funding, and it's an endorsement of the technology, that this is something that is interesting to a business like Spark. What do you think you'll do next? You talk about building the app. What in terms of the business part, what do you then need to do? Like, are you hiring right at the moment? Where do you find people, or have you got the team built and now it's a matter of going and doing?
We have a really amazing team, but I am hiring, looking for another Unreal developer. Always wanting really talented people to join our team. We want to be able to launch more entertainment spaces here in New Zealand and in Australia, so that we can have more of our oddball game played, and we can start linking those sites up together. We can start optimizing that content for esports, so that people can start competing against each other, and we can have esport leagues going on, and then building out this mobile application so it links into our games. So that's kind of the vision at the moment, is kind of leading the way with virtual gaming.
I think maybe it's taken me a little bit longer to click than it should have, but I think I now realize where you're heading, is that you've got this VR technology and capability, But in order to experience it, you have to be in Wellington, like a physical place to experience a virtual world. Whereas with the 5G implemented and your VR app, you won't need to come to Wellington to visit Beyond. You can be at home or at work and experience it. Have I got that right?
That's 100% right. You've got it. So you could be at home, you could be anywhere, whether you're in a VR headset or with your mobile phone. And that's what that technology is going to enable us to do, and connecting everyone together into that game.
How amazing is that going to be? Because just thinking of the year we've had with 2020 and moving to Zoom, it's good, but to get to VR to visit maybe a family member you can't get to in the US or the UK, this could become quite transformative for relationships where flying's out of the question.
I think so. I think gives us that ability to connect in and to have, those immersive special moments with each other, whether, like you say, it's someone that we miss or, someone we want to play a game with or have a chat with. It's all sorts of opportunities.
For people listening at the moment and thinking, I want to get into gaming, I want to actually be in this as an industry, how do you become an Unreal developer? What's the path to become part of this really exciting and large gaming industry?
So if you're particularly interested in the development side of things, then, computer science is the area that you'd be looking into. If you want to get a computer science degree, that would be amazing. If you still want to go down that route from that real technical point of view, but there's also game development courses that you can do. There's media design school, for example, Victoria University, Massey University, they all have people working in VR now. So whether you're looking at from a game, from a design point of view or a development point of view, there's those opportunities for you to work there. We had some really brilliant people in New Zealand, like Mark Billinghurst, who, and the team down at, Rob Lindemann down at HitLab. So there's quite a deep entrenched, educational, sector here, working in VR for a long time, and some real amazing champions doing interesting things and building up the talent that we need. So there's really no shortage of places you can go and learn. And then it really comes down to, taking the initiative to make your own games, join a game jam, make something, yourself. And I always think that's one of the best possible ways. It's like, show initiative, do it all yourself and build something and launch it and see what happens. And then, find there's lots of companies here hiring, so there's no shortage of us.
That's what I'm hearing in every business I talk to that's software centric. Part of the interview comes back to, who do you know? Like, we are hiring. There's no shortage, and maybe part of that's COVID, but maybe it's just a sign of the times that technology is now mature. It's an area that every part of our lives get touched by now.
It is. It really is, and we just need more people, in the creative technology space. It's really important. We've got jobs for them, whether it's in a gaming company or in film, and like I said, they cross over. So it's really important we focus on creative, the creative industries in New Zealand, and we put a focus and we acknowledge that we have incredible gaming studios here, whether it's, Rocketworks, Aurora 44, Weta, there's some big names now, and there's a shift from it just being film. And so I think we need, government to acknowledge that as well, and make sure that there's support given to studios and funding available so people can start up, because like any company, you've got to have some funding to get started. So that's really important too.
Absolutely. I think that for the New Zealand government, they've already seen the importance and success that came from Lord of the Rings. And that was using some of our natural talents, our landscape and our people to approach film in a different way. And whenever there's a technology shift, there's an opportunity to create something new, like brand new. I'm thinking, next year a James Bond movie's coming out. What would be the New Zealand equivalent that we could create in VR that becomes its own 2-decade, 3-decade franchise?
Exactly. And this is a time for us to be focusing on creative IP from New Zealand. Let's invest in ourselves. Let's tell our stories. Let's build it now and invest in it now, because we're open. We're here. Everyone wishes they were here, but we're here and we can work with each other, next to each other. I can have my locations open. People can play, so we have this real advantage and we have the skill set here. So I'm really keen to see that happen more.
I'd love to see some of the origin stories of Aotearoa, some of the original stories and the legends of how Māori saw that Aotearoa was created. Imagine that in a VR world. You could create where the Wakas arrived. You could create where the different tribes were living, and overlay it on and on a modern kind of SimCity environment that you can participate in. There's so much unexplored areas for us to leverage, not just technology but culture with it, that no one else in the world can do. And it's pretty exciting to hear from someone like yourself that's leading that charge in New Zealand, because we've got, I think, a unique moment post-COVID, at least touch wood for New Zealand, to get ahead on this.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And we've got some really brilliant people like Sam Witters, who is leading the way in creating studios that do support, those kind of stories being told, as well as linking in to get the funding available to train people to, help make sure that people can actually animate and build these stories. We're quite fortunate. We've got some pretty brilliant people in this industry.
Super exciting. Jessica, we've had an amazing chat. We've covered a lot of different areas. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to cover, or a question that maybe I haven't asked and I should have asked?
I guess, it sounds probably the one thing is we've talked about all the positive and all the great things, but, I guess we should acknowledge that this year has been hard, and whether or not you do work in VR or whatever industry, we certainly had a tough time. We launched in the US and in February. And so, of course, you can imagine our entire plans went out the window, and we had to adapt, and we had to, think outside the box. But I guess that's one of the great things about being a Kiwi, is that we can be agile. We can hibernate if we need to, and then be ready to pounce with a new idea. And, and so it's definitely a roller coaster being a startup, and it's not all just glamorous and looks cool and playing in VR. There's the hard stuff that's gone in behind it. So that's probably my only thing to say. It's amazing, but it's not always easy.
No, there's days with the business owners I've spoken to on some of these interviews where when the cameras go off, we have the real chat around just how difficult some days have been, because there hasn't been that certainty or that routine, and it's not just them, it's their business partner, or it's their employees, their suppliers not getting goods, or customers needing a lot more and not being able to supply. There's a lot of friction and volatility in our system, which is great for opportunity, but it's also very difficult when you're trying to run things to schedule, isn't it? So, yeah, I well done with your resilience this year. I think it's something that anyone who's managed to get through here as a business has done well.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to all those businesses listening, or anyone listening who's managed to get through or hasn't, it's probably not your fault if you didn't. And if you did, well, kia ora and well done.
Thank you very much for your time today, Jessica. I know that now on my list is going to be to come down to your Wellington Beyond studios and try putting one of these VR headsets on, either the oddball party, or probably, if I can get some of my teammates here along, the corporate chaos. That sounds like a good Christmas activity.
Yeah, we've got a few corporate teams booked in for their Christmas parties this year. Bit different from what you'd normally do.